Welcome back to the Profitable Home Services Podcast. This is the podcast where we uncover hidden profit leaks. We want to find those hidden profit leaks and not just find them, but get them plugged so that you have a business that you love, a business that's paying you, a business that allows you to take a steady income every week or every month, a business that allows you to hire the best team that you can possibly hire, and a business that you grow to love again. This week on this episode, we are proud to have Brad Herda here with us from the Blue Collar BS podcast. And we're going to dig in on another profit finding mission as we dig into an area that some of you may or may not be familiar with. So, welcome, Brad. Thanks for coming on the program today.
Thank you very much, Diana. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, as we were talking offline, you and I both have a pretty comparable or a background that works well together in that we both have had some financial struggles in our backgrounds
Hmm.
in our growing up era where
Correct.
we've had to get creative on how to make ends meet, how to handle our finances, how to stretch that nickel as far as we can stretch it. Let's start there as we lay a foundation for eventually talking a little bit about the differences that Profit First has made in your business and even in mine.
Okay. That's a
So,
great place to start.
yeah, and I think you said you started with the old fashioned envelope system back when you were a kid.
Yeah, when I was a kid getting my allowance, right, it was I wanted to get the whatevers it was, whether it's the new tires for my bike or whether it was a new chain or the pads for it or the magnesium wheels for the BMX bike. Do all the things, make it all happen. It's like, okay, great. How do you make that all happen? Because there was also a candy store nearby and a lot of other stuff. And I'm a guy who I like things. I like to have things. So it's never been one of my, um, spending's been one of my things, not saving. So had to be able to figure out how to save for those things because I didn't have the income to support what the things that I wanted. So got the envelope system, put the 23 things on my envelope. Here's what I want to get. And the next thing I know, I got nickels all over the place. And I'm like, why am I trying to find 27 things when I could turn nickels to dollars and get the things that I really wanted, not just have everything?
And I'm going to back us up a little bit more for the listeners who may not be old enough to understand and know the envelope system. We're dating ourselves here, Brad.
Correct.
So for you youngsters out there, the envelope system is where when you would get paid, you would put a
In cash,
certain
by the way,
in
in
cash.
cash.
Yes,
So
you
that's
would
why
put
the envelopes were really important because they were
yep,
physical, tangible pieces that we could put
yep,
cash into. It wasn't the
yep.
bank account, it wasn't a debit card, it wasn't any of those
It was
things back
physical
then.
cash. And you would put a certain amount of cash in the envelope so you could always pay your rent. So if you got paid four times, every week, you'd put one fourth of your rent in the envelope every week. You'd have an envelope for gas, an envelope for food, an envelope for maybe your insurance because it comes due maybe quarterly. So we would
Correct.
have all these envelopes that we worked out of. And don't laugh, this system really, really works and it still works today. I've
Mhm.
seen a lot of my clients in their personal lives when they're going through maybe some financial hiccups or whatever, revert back to the envelope system to get their spending under control. So, this is what Brad and I are talking about because we both grew up with the envelope system. So, now I'll let Brad go ahead and come back into his story.
Yeah, so you just had this stuff going on, and it's like, okay, great. And then once I got past that point of needing to go, then I got my first real job in high school and different things. It was like, okay, um, had the cash to go do what you wanted to do, so it wasn't as big of a thing because I didn't have to worry about it. It wasn't like I was saving for a car or doing things because at that time when I was in high school, my first car was $500. Okay, so it was a couple weeks worth of work. Great, got the car, have a nice time. It wasn't $10,000 for a used car like it is today, right?
Like it is now. Yeah.
It was very different. Same thing going to college. You could work and go to school at the same time. Very different scenarios. And that's why I'm grateful that Mike put Profit First out there to scale that forward, that idea of the envelope pieces into entrepreneurship to allow people to understand that. Um, it's not about what you spend, it's about what you don't spend. So that you
And
can so you can pay yourself, because so many people aren't paying themselves. It's like, oh, I
right,
got this job and I'm just gonna run my business, my life through my business. Cool, you can in certain situations and LLCs and different things, but that's not always the best idea all the
no,
time,
no.
right? So you have to
And
be able to adapt and get yourself into a system and a process that works, so that way when it comes to an audit or to a partnership agreement or to go sell your business at some point, you have some structure behind you.
right. And all too often when I'm working with home service businesses, I see them growing. They put all of their attention on that top line revenue. And when you actually dig into it, they may or may not be able to take home a regular paycheck for themselves.
Correct.
Or if you took what they're paying themselves and divided it by the actual number of hours that they're really working, they're the lowest paid employee in their
Correct.
business. And when you show them that, they're like, what just happened? Because they didn't realize what a small amount they were actually taking out of their business. And so, with the Profit First program, we can start setting aside a certain percentage and allow them to take home a paycheck, take that financial pressure off of home, take off some of the stress that goes along with, do we get money this week or not? Or
Correct.
this month or not? Okay, this month we can only have this small little amount because that was all that was left over. We had a major truck breakdown. We had to pay for that on top of everything else, and we get the scraps that come home to us. And we don't want it. We don't want that for our home service business owners. We want you taken off the top. We want you to be able to support yourself as you grow this business. And so this is why Brad and I are both such huge fans of the book Profit First by Mike Michalowicz.
Yeah, I give anybody that's starting on entrepreneurship, just read it. You don't have to understand it because the concepts are so simple. And I was blessed to be at a conference 4 years ago now, where we had Mike as a keynote speaker and just going through everything. And um, to his credit, he's like, "Hey, you know what? It works, but the hardest part is it's so simple, people stop." Right? It's
They
so
do.
simple that people don't want to use it because it makes so it's simple. So if it's simple, it's something also that's very simple to overcome and to say, I'm not gonna set that aside for taxes. I know it's there. Well, it's really important to set it aside for taxes because you know it's there. Because if you happen to have right, if you have a good year and your quarterlies are based off of last year and you're not paying attention and changing your quarterlies, you're gonna have a big bill at the end of the year.
And then panic sets in.
And then panic sets in and saying, where am I going to get $60,000 to pay the government here? Well, if you were setting that aside all along and paying attention, you would have been perfectly okay.
Right. Yeah. I always tell people you don't want to get on the IRS's Christmas gift card, Christmas card list. That's not where you want to be. You want to be
No,
unknown to them.
correct. You want to be anonymous. You want to make sure that your
Yes.
stuff goes in. It says, okay, this is good, great, fantastic.
And they move
Um,
on to somebody else.
And,
Right.
and the other piece that I have great conversations with, and people look at me weird when I ask these questions to our home service clients and tradesmen. I asked them the question, I said, so what's more important to you, accumulating wealth or minimizing your taxes? And they look at me and go, why does it matter? Well, because financially, they're on different ends of the spectrum of what
They
to do
are.
and how to handle accounting practices and different things. And I'm a believer that paying taxes is the privilege of being successful. I don't want to pay any more than I have to, but I'm not going to go out at the end of the year to spend $60,000 in cash to buy a new truck because my accountant says I need to go spend money so I don't have to pay taxes. But
Right.
I just got rid of cash, $60,000 of cash to minimize 4,000, 5,000, $10,000 of taxes. Why don't I just pay the $10,000 of taxes and still
You
have
bet.
$50,000 of cash in my pocket so I can go hire the next person, the next service tech and grow versus trying to minimize my tax burden? It's those conversations that are really important to have the relationship with the understanding to go, what side of the fence am I on? And finding professionals that support your vision, not their vision.
Right. And I'm going to clarify that example a little bit. It's one thing if you've been needing a truck, your current one's breaking down on you and you're starting to spend a lot more on repairs and things that than you should be. It's impacting your jobs and you go buy a truck towards the end of the year.
Correct.
That's a different conversation than please give me permission to go shopping because there's a shiny new truck sitting over on the car lot over there and I just want it. So it's a different,
Correct.
it's almost the need versus the want type of thing. So just I don't want people thinking that we're saying no, you can't go truck shopping. But
Oh,
let's
absolutely,
put
yes.
it in a
If
different
if
context.
it's
Yeah.
costing you so much money per right, and it's your brand and it's your thing, and your white F-150 pickup truck is now iron oxide, you may want to think about how
Yeah.
that branding impacts and say, yes, I'm willing to go
Yeah.
spend that money to avoid, but it's a business decision, not a tax decision.
Not a tax decision. Correct. Yes. Yes. Because
And it,
unfortunately, a lot of accountants out there think that is tax planning. Go buy a piece of equipment before the end of the year. And
correct.
a lot of business owners end up buying equipment they don't really need, vehicles they really don't need, and it becomes a very poor use of their cash if it isn't turning dollars for them.
Well, and then the profit leak that comes with that is
Yes.
I'm paying all the extra insurance. I have all the extra overhead expenses and replacement costs later on, and maintenance and and consumables that might go with it.
Yep.
It's like, well, now I've just increased my overhead structure, and so how do I stay competitive in a market where it hasn't really happened yet? The race to the bottom, it's happening in some areas, but it's not
Mhm.
happening as much as I thought it was right now. But yeah, that race to the bottom to compete strictly on price is real, and when you have those
Yeah.
fixed costs, it becomes very difficult to do that.
And you don't want to be part of the race to the bottom group
Nope.
because that
No,
will not
we do.
not end well.
It does not end well. It does not end well at all, which is why you got to differentiate yourself in many
Mhm.
cases, not just on price. You got to differentiate yourself on other things,
Right.
and be really good at other things and demonstrate the value, because if you're competing on price, you're going to lose all the time.
And I'm going to pull this back around to the profit first mindset again. If you're in the profit first world and you're actually setting up your bank accounts and doing your transfers and things like that, you may have an account sitting out there for equipment purchase, or we might I sometimes I give a name of future planning or capital improvements or whatever we might name that account, but we're putting money in there. And now, when it's time to buy that truck because you're having trouble with one of yours, or we've just grown enough that we need to put another tech in a truck, we've got money sitting in the account. Now, we may not have 100% of the cash to go buy that truck, but we'll have a really nice big down payment towards it. And maybe we only have to finance half of it or a third of it or something
Right.
along those lines, which helps keep that monthly overhead down a bit. So we love profit first because we can keep our taxes, that money separate so that we always have the money to pay our income tax. We don't want any of our people in trouble with the IRS. That's a terrible place to be. We've got the money for the growth that we need. Maybe we need to hire a new person within the business. Well, we can practice putting or making their payroll to our futures account, whatever word you want
Correct.
to give that account. So if you practice for several months of paying their payroll in there, that'll give you a big indicator if you're ready to hire that person or not. There's a lot of things like that we can do with Profit First
All right.
that
And
allows us to grow in a healthy way and keeps our businesses way more profitable than the average home service business.
the practice is the differentiator that you've brought
It
up,
is.
Diane, in the past. No one that I've talked to says, "Hey, let's practice putting this away to see if we can afford this next person." So when our first conversation, like, that is a differentiator for you. Like, hey, yeah, let's stick that aside. And then if you do that for 3 months, you now have the bankroll to support that activity, to
Mhm.
get the up and running and do the thing, versus having to be scared of what's there. And I was just at a meeting today, and there was a Socrates quote about, I forget exactly what it was, but essentially my paraphrasing was, what are you going to run towards instead of running away from? Are we going to run towards profitability and growth and abundance mindset and those things, or are we going to run away from the fear of failure? Those two things they're identical, but they're from a very different mindset,
Very different. Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
so running towards towards profit, running towards paying yourself, running towards those things is far more beneficial than running away from the fear of failure. I'm going to run
Right.
away. I have to go save this money because I might not make it. No, I get to save this money because I'm going to hire so and so in 3 months.
And I want to be able to make, I just want to have that peace of mind of knowing I can do it consistently every single pay period. So that when I hire that person, there's no type of a feel, hanging
Right.
on by fingernails type of a feel because you've hired somebody. You've got the cash sitting there. You can confidently hire them. You can give them a great onboarding experience. You don't have to worry that the first couple months are with you, that they're not pulling their full weight. It's okay because you've got 3 months of their salary sitting there in savings. And it
Correct.
gives you a completely different feel for hiring that next person.
A way different feel and a way different opportunity, and it forces you to hire slow. It
Yes.
forces you to find, if you go through the practice of "Hey, I'm going to spend 3 months saving while I am going through the process of hiring," you are able to afford the opportunity to look for the right person and the right fit and the right piece
Yep.
of the puzzle versus, hey, let me find breathing should not be a requirement of hiring.
Right. Yeah. You're not hiring somebody just because they have a pulse. Yeah. We
Uh,
really want to hire those A players, those 5-star players, whatever word you want to call them, so that you're building out the best team possible and you can afford to do it because you've been practicing before you actually hire this person.
right. And too many home services businesses would hire somebody that's breathing, and or they had the right driving record,
Right.
are usually the two criteria. And cool that they fit both those criteria, but if they don't fit the need of the organization, you're actually going to waste that money, even though you've saved up the 3 months for it. You've just pissed it away because you made a bad decision in the hiring
Right.
process.
Yeah. Instead of slowing down that process and finding the best person for that role in your company, the person that's going to help you achieve your goal of whatever you're trying to work for this year. We want a person who'll work with your existing team to help you meet that goal and not
Correct.
just somebody who will show up for a while and then maybe not.
Correct.
So yeah, there's a lot of costs involved. On a recent episode, I had Rami Alagial from People Processes came back on the program. We were talking about the cost of a mishire, how expensive that is, and my jaw just dropped when he ran all these numbers of how expensive a mishire is. So we want to guard our money. We especially if we've been practicing for 3 months. We don't want to throw that away. We want to, invest it in a good hire, somebody who's been vetted completely. So make sure that
So
they're going to help you.
So out of curiosity, what was his math like? Was it 2 times salary, 3 times, 5 times?
It was
Where was he
close.
at in his analogy? Because it can be all over the map. Most people go very conservatively, but I'm just curious where he was at.
It was probably about 4 or 5 times what their salary is.
And
By
that's
the time
yep,
you spend the time to actually find somebody and get them hired, you spend training time on them. They don't work out. And so now you've got fallout to the rest of your team. You might be paying overtime and stuff because people are having to work extra to pick up what didn't get picked up.
correct.
And then you start the process all over again. And by the time all that happens, you've lost 6 months and maybe even longer. And then you get the new person up to speed again. It was a big number.
Yep.
And I was just shocked at how big. I was thinking like 2 times salary. I hear that one a lot, but it was more like 4 or 5 times salary.
Yeah, the two and a half is a very conservative number when you start taking in all of the other opportunity costs that exist.
Hmm.
And those aren't necessarily all cash costs, but they are definitely opportunity for
Right.
sure along the
Well,
way. 'Cause-
and something as simple as a new job that couldn't be accepted because you didn't have a team that was fully functioning. There's a cost there that we're not even thinking about. So
correct.
he and I were brainstorming some of those other costs that we don't think about. So that's why it's so important to hire carefully and not just take just anybody. And then flip that around if you've got the wrong person on your team, holding them too long. especially when they're related.
Those are
To
usually
you
the
or
hardest.
somebody on your team.
Those are usually the hardest ones
They are.
to get rid of, whether they're field or whether they're office.
It
Um,
doesn't matter. They're
it, it,
hard.
they're
Yeah.
difficult things to do, and they
Yeah.
often become complicated. And one of the things I love doing is working with family businesses in working through that transition. And that is often one of the most difficult things to go through is who's doing what from a family member perspective, and are they really qualified to be doing it?
Mhm.
Because we fail to separate equity from operation ability, right? So too often the family, hey, mom and dad have shares and all the kids have shares, which they feel that they should be entitled to do the things at the executive level of the organization or at the strategy and or strategic planning or wherever you want to call it, they should be in charge of something, and they're not even close to qualified or opportunity. And it's like,
Right.
you can be an owner, but you know what? You're really a customer service rep. That's where you really belong. Um, and but you can go to the family meetings and you can go to the board meetings, such, but your operational role should really be here because that's where your
Right.
zone of genius is. And
Right.
um, getting organizations to understand that and see it is challenging. But once you recognize it, everybody's happy because that family member's operating in their zone of genius and they're happy doing it. It gets rid of all of the anxiety and noise and stress because now they're not way over their ski tips doing things that the rest of the family's getting all pissed off about. Um, right? So go to the birthday dinner and there's three family members over in the corner talking about the one sibling or whatever that's in the other room. You don't need that.
No.
That's not a good way to have a Thanksgiving meal is and
No. No.
birthday dinners with kibitzing and rumor milling within your own family. It's a bad idea.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard when you work together. Um, and to keep those lines clean and not let profit leaks start leaking into your business because of family members. I've even had conversations with people about paying a family member to not come to work in the business because they were doing more damage, but yet they had to have an income. They were doing more damage in the business than was warranted. And so, well, what about if we gave them this salary to not come into work? And the profit leak was less to do that than it was to let them continue because of
And
what
but
it was doing to the team.
all right, and my question becomes if they were a family member, did they have ownership equity or not? Because should they be getting operational income versus distribution income
Right.
from the
Yeah.
business would be one of those questions.
Yep.
I've got a client right now where dad doesn't want to take distributions because if they do that, then everybody gets it as part of the C corp, right? If somebody gets it, everybody gets it. Well, he doesn't want the rest of his family to get some of that. It's like, what are you? It's like, okay, well then we need to pay the other people that are involved here more money because you're underpaying their value for
Yeah.
market share. Um, to do the job you're asking them to do, you're severely underpaying them. If you had to go out and hire somebody, you'd be paying 50% more for that. But just because they're a family member doesn't mean you should be taking advantage of them.
Right. Yep.
Right. So the opposite of profit leak, it's the hey, no, that we need to pay them
Yep.
more because that's what the open market should go for.
Right.
Whereas
So
often that's the family members being overpaid for what they're doing. In this case, this family member is being way underpaid for what they're
underpaid.
doing.
Okay. Yeah. Usually I see the overpaid side of it more so. And that becomes a very big profit leak that we have to address. And that makes for some uncomfortable conversations too.
Yes, yes. Aunt Sally, who's been doing the bookkeeping at $80,000 a year for 10 years, who can't
Yes.
even run an aging report in QuickBooks Online and still wants to write it out on paper and using her. I'm using my
Yeah.
adding machine to run tape. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, no, no,
Yeah.
no. We
Yep.
need Aunt Sally needs to go find something else to do.
Yeah. But those are the things that you and I get to talk with our clients about and be willing to have those uncomfortable conversations as needed. But
Correct.
if we can get them working with profit first, I think it makes those things come to light a little quicker because as we're working our allocations and we're putting our money in these accounts And we're working so hard to hit a particular net profit percentage because we want to put that money in our account every single month and take our quarterly distributions. It makes the I think it makes it a little bit easier to have some of those conversations because our goal is a little more clear than it would be otherwise.
So, how do you find working with your home service clients their ability to define what success looks like?
I
How
think
how
when
how how much dental and root canal work do you have to do to pull teeth to get them to come to the conclusion of this is what we're trying to strive for?
it takes some visiting around it to begin with because I'm trying to be nice here because they seem to come in with success equals top line revenue. And so we have to get rid of that. That's a myth. We have to get rid of it
Right.
because I see too many nice, healthy top line revenues with hardly anything at the bottom 2 or 3 or 4% net profit. And so you can brag all you want when you're with your buddies, hey, I'm a whatever $1 million company. But if you're not keeping it, it's immaterial what your top line is. And so
Correct.
sometimes we have to dig into it and I think it comes back from them not understanding their numbers. They can pull sales off of their CRM. That's a super easy number to get to. But because they don't understand how intercorrelated and interlocked everything is, they don't realize when I do this action, it kills my bottom line profit. They don't get that. Not right away. Now, after we've been working with them for a little while, all of a sudden the light comes on and they start realizing these things. And then we're able to really start changing the trajectory of the business and starting to identify and plug profit leaks in their business.
Right. I just had a client a couple years ago. We were talking family business again, and I'm like working with this with the child and uh, sitting down with dad, and could feel some tension. I'm like, what does success look like?
Mhm.
I mean, what is it that you want to put in your pocket every year?
Right.
Right? I'm like, first I asked the question, what are you looking for net income? What does success look like? And I got a blank stare. So I'm like, okay, let me go about this differently. Like,
Yep.
how much money do you need every year in your pocket in order to live the life that you want to live from this business? Because without knowing that, we are creating so much stress and anxiety on
We
your
are.
children to run that business and go forward to go, hey, what is and what do I need to do to get your approval that I'm running it correctly? Because all you do is
Yeah.
tell me that I'm not making enough money, but yet you're living the life of kingdoms here, but it doesn't appear to be enough. So what is enough and what does it need to look like? And and,
and
and it's a
and can
very
we
difficult conversation to get
yeah.
an answer to.
Can It's almost like they're trying to hit a moving target because in your case, dad's got this number that can change daily. They don't know what the magic number is, and so they can never hit the target because they don't know where it's at and it doesn't stay in one spot.
Correct.
And so, how do we get around that? Um, and success to the second generation is probably a completely different thought than success to the dad, the first generation.
Correct. And depending on how you have your business set up, whether it's transfer or trust or whatever. There's lots of ways to go transfer wealth at some point when there's um,
Mm-hmm.
the inevitable death or passing away or whatever. Um, Make sure that that's all. I can't stress it enough for folks listening to go get with your lawyer and make sure those things are good and tidy and you have the right insurance in
Yes.
place. Because the last thing I want to see anybody do that's listening is that they've got their business, they've got great contracts lined up, they got a ton of stuff there. They don't have insurance on themselves for the business. It transfers over to the spouse, and the spouse has to go bankrupt to fulfill all the contracts that you have because there's no working capital for the business to do anything with because you were the business doing all the work and nobody knows what's going on. I've seen it
Oh,
happen
that's
here locally
all the time. Yeah.
so often that it's a difficult conversation to have. It's not overly complex to solve the problem, and it may feel like a waste of money, but it is by far the best thing you can do for your family.
Yes. Yep. And it is so sad when you and I see it happen, unfortunately, way more often than it should. And we end up meeting with the spouse who generally has been somewhat hands off on the business.
Correct.
And so they don't even know where to start. And all
Correct.
of a sudden, they're having to make decisions with minimal knowledge of the actual day to day workings of the business.
Right. And if you've taken deposits, but you've already spent it and you didn't have good
Yep.
contracts and all the other things that maybe a strong business has, I don't have it. I don't have a CRM. It was on a handshake. It was on this. And now there's money. Okay. It is just and
It's
I know
awful. Yeah.
there's people listening to this right now that are laughing hysterically because it's what they do. I'm going to ask you to stop the car, stop whatever it is, call your attorney. If you don't have one, find one to resolve this issue because I
Yes.
assure you, looking down from wherever you're going to be post life, whatever you believe for afterlife, you are going to be, you're going to regret the things you didn't do for your family afterwards.
I
And
had a,
I can't stress that enough. Sorry, I'm on
yeah.
my soapbox. I apologize.
Well, I'll stay on your soapbox with you. I had a client earlier this year who unfortunately was involved in a head on car accident and it killed him. And nobody in the business knew how to do whatever, the stuff that had to be done. And so he lost his employees pretty quickly.
Hmm.
And they ended up closing the business. He and his wife had just gone through a divorce, so she wasn't really, it was like not she wasn't going to jump back in and help, and she had been kept out of it. He did that on purpose, and so
Okay.
now we have another family member who knows nothing about the business, trying to sell equipment so they can pay off debt. It's a nightmare, and he had nothing in place. It just you just shudder at what he didn't have in place.
Right.
And I
And
had no idea he didn't have some of that stuff
right.
in place. I thought he
And
did.
even if they had let's just say they even had $100,000, $250,000 policy on themselves from the business perspective,
Anything.
that would
Yeah.
at least give the spouse the opportunity to hire professionals to figure it all out
Yep.
versus taking it out of savings or personal accounts or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
It is, I had a young client, started, he was doing his own general contracting, home business, building homes, doing things, remodeling. And then he contracted himself to be his own home builder for his home, and they were expecting their first child. And I'm like, dude, have you taken care of this yet? He's like, no, I haven't. I said, well, right now you are building your own house, your wife is expecting, and if something were to go horribly wrong with you, because he also does some extreme sport activities, like if something were to happen to you, a, your house isn't being built because your wife has no idea who to go get and do whatever, and she has no capital to hire anybody to go do it, because you're self-performing some of the work within your own business. So you better figure this out because if something were to happen, you're going to put your wife and your unborn child at risk to be
Yes.
bankrupt, to go live with her parents or whatever, because
Mhm.
she's going to have to sell the dream house that you guys were planning for if something were to happen.
Right. At this
Half
point, she'd be
half
selling the
finished.
land because there
Correct.
wouldn't even be a full house on it. So yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
stories are all over the place and they're real and they suck. And as somebody who comes in at the tail end or watching helping solve the problem afterwards, it's not a problem I enjoy working on.
No. Those are hard. So hard. Yeah. I had a many years ago, I had a client paying the Dodge the self-employment tax scheme. So he made sure every year that his business broke even because he didn't want to pay any self-employment tax. Well, he ended up passing away, and because he hadn't paid anything into the social security system, his wife and young children got nothing afterwards. They didn't even get that monthly check that should have come in based on his earnings.
Right.
And that she had to move in with her parents. She had two little kids, had to move in with her parents because she goes, I don't know what to do. I'm at a loss. Don't know what to do. And we ended up closing down the business, and but she hadn't been a part of the business. She didn't know anything that was going on. She had,
Correct.
yeah, probably I think it was like a 4 and a 6 year old at the time. So she had a lot of years of supporting these kids and no social security coming in because he hadn't paid anything in.
Hey, folks, swallow your pride. Do the right thing.
Yeah. Yep. So we kind of got off course from where we started, but hey,
Sorry,
somebody needed to hear this.
that was a big deviation, but it's an important one for
It is.
many in this industry in the home service world that often goes overlooked. And there's lots of people out there willing to support you to make sure that your family and business are taken care of if something dramatic were to happen.
And I think that's part of building out your team. People see the word team and they think of, okay, I've got my gal in the office, I've got my guys out installing, I've got my techs, I've got my whatever, I've built the team, but they forget they need the accountant, they need the attorney, they need the insurance person. They need these other professionals out there to be part of their team so
Correct.
that they make sure these kinds of items are taken care of and not just started but not finished, because that doesn't get you anything either. We got to get them
Correct.
finished, got to get them filed, got to update them periodically, all that type of stuff has to happen. So that is part of your team if you're going to be a successful business owner, is
Correct.
having these people ready
It's
and willing to work for you.
super important,
Yeah.
and it's okay to make demands for your service provider. It's okay that they right not I've seen too many business owners that feel everybody's in their wallet and in their pocket
Oh.
because they don't see the value. Well, if you have that feeling, then it's probably not the right person.
Right, right.
Then they're probably not providing you the value. If you bitch and complain about every year your commercial insurance goes up and it is um, causing issues and you don't know what it is and your agent's never talking to you, you probably have the wrong agent,
Wrong agent. Yeah, find an agent who is good at communication.
right?
Yeah.
If workman's comp is an issue for you, or I had two clients where I have a commercial agent in my network. She's awesome at workman's comp. They got their audits and things, and we saved them probably $70,000 of cash because one client, actually both of them, had all of their staffs misclassified
Oh no.
based on the industries they were in. It's like, well, you're classified as this. Yeah, but they're not that. They're this, which is a significantly lower risk as to what's
Lower
really
rate.
happening.
Right.
Um, so knowing where your classifications are really important as well.
Right. Yeah.
That's a that's not the profit leak I was going with, but that is
That's
one
okay.
that
It
is
is a
one
leak.
that is
Yes.
there for sure is to know that you're in the
Yeah.
right classifications for your workman's comp.
Right. Yeah. Well, Brad, since you did just share a profit leak, I'm going to hit you for another one. I'm going to hit you up for a unique or hidden profit leak that you see when you're working with home service businesses. And before you answer, I want to say this is everybody's favorite part of the program because they're listening. They know that we're going to give them something that maybe they haven't thought about. I know I have myself have learned just by sharing these leaks at the end of each program. So lay one on us, Brad.
So for me, one of them is leveraging youth in your business to make change, not only in technology, but also in communication.
Oh, wow. Let's expand on that just a little bit.
Right. So I'm a big proponent of Gen Z in the workforce and Gen Alpha coming in behind them. And they communicate differently, they behave differently.
They
And
do.
leveraging that speed and energy to move your business forward with finding the right CRM tools, finding the right communication tools, finding the right hey, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in my car all the time driving around. Can we find a service or a tool that we can do virtual visits with our clients and that make it simple and easy? And then the owners are going, well, I don't know if Betty's going to really like to do that. Well, Betty doesn't want to sit around waiting for something for somebody to come over and say, hey, oh, just flip that switch. It's okay. And here's $300. No, if you can do it and satisfy without actually ever being in the house and you have a way to do that, well, go do that. So leveraging youth to find the technology to create solutions and effectiveness in your business is one of those things that most don't take advantage of because the responses I get typically are these kids don't want to work. They don't ever want to show up on time. They don't know how to do this. They don't know how to do that. Well, they do know how to do a lot of things that you don't know how to do. So
Right.
leverage
Right.
them for that.
Right. And I will say that that is not a leak that we've seen on this program before. So you scored big time today. I like it when we get new ones that we've not had discussed before. So
Was
thank you.
workman's comp in there before?
Um, I don't think so. I'm thinking you got a two for
Hmm,
today.
two for two.
Yeah, pat yourself on the back.
Living large.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Brad, for coming on and talking about it. Even though we ended up on a different area than we had planned on talking about, I'm going to chalk that up that somebody needed to hear what we were talking about with getting your business, being ready for the un unthinkable that could
Correct.
happen. Or even if it's a short-term thing. You land in a
Correct.
hospital for a couple months. You can't run your business from a hospital bed if you're unconscious. And so being
Typically not.
ready that
Correct.
that business can continue to run without you. So that was not going to be today's topic, but
Nope.
we're glad it
It was
ended up
not.
being today's topic.
It, it was
And
not that topic. I guess just circle back to that though, real quick. So COVID, everybody put together disaster plans, right? They all put those things together. They thought about it. What are we going to do now that we're removed from that? I'm going to ask you guys to go back and revisit what you were going to do there and update
right.
that because it's changed from what it was. Be prepared for something. Get all the stuff in order. Just take take a Saturday, take a rain day, take something to go make that all happen.
And I'm thinking I haven't looked at any of mine since COVID either. Oops.
Right? For all of us.
Yeah, we've been busy since then.
Correct.
So very good. Thank you again, Brad, for joining us. And thank you, loyal listeners, for listening. You guys are amazing that you pop on episode after episode. Our numbers are growing. I thank you so much for that. Just wanted to do a little announcement before we wrap this up today. We are planning a profit blueprint boot camp coming up the first week in October. It'll be a 6 week program where we will help you implement profit first in your business. An hour each week for 6 weeks, so minimal time requirement. We'll be meeting 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon Eastern. So you Easterners can just bring your lunch to the Zoom call. The rest of us will watch you eat, and we will get Profit First implemented into your business. And for those of you who maybe had Profit First running a couple years back and it was working so well that you stopped doing it, this would be a great time to get your Profit First system tuned back up again and get it rolling. So if you're interested in our boot camp, please reach out. We're happy to help you get signed up. Um, we just want to see businesses all over the country implementing profit first, getting those wins that come from those weekly transfers, being able to take your quarterly distributions and paying yourself first as the business owner. So I'm hoping that between Brad and I, we wowed you with some great ideas today. And we'll just thank you for being with us, and we'll catch you on the next episode. We'll call that a wrap for today. Thank you so much. Bye bye, everybody.